Hello, my name is Ashley, and this is my critical race theory presentation. The racial identity development theory helps us to understand what stages we go through and kind of why and how our experiences shape our perspective, which shape us into who we are today. I'd say my family definitely had a big influence on informing my racial identity. They were the people that always said, I'm not racist, but and that felt very wrong to me. You shouldn't have to clarify that you're not racist if you're not saying anything racist or being racist. But so that was something I definitely did not want to identify with. I've always been in the majority as far as my race. I'm white, at least the majority in America where I live. And I definitely remember going through a stage of being colorblind. I figured if I just treated everyone equal, then it would all be fine and I wouldn't be racist. But unfortunately, that's not how the world is, and it was just kind of adding to the problem. Being colorblind prevents you from addressing the real life discrimination that happens every day. I first started becoming aware of my racial identity when we started taking all those standardized tests, and we always had to fill in our race. And it made me wonder, why are they so concerned about what race I am, what race everybody is, and what that kind of meant for me is picking the white. And it's when I kind of started realizing, okay, like I am the majority, like what does that mean? So an experience, it was an experience, something I witnessed of institutionalized racism. In high school, we could kind of wander around during lunch in certain areas. There were obviously like the cafeterias, but there were certain parts of the school that we could just walk around. And I always sat, it was called the back of Central. It was just like this big open area. And people, walked around the building. And without fail, multiple times a week, because people were walking around in groups. And I would always see a group of Black girls, and they always got stopped. And they were always asked, what are you doing? Where are you supposed to be? Do your teachers know? Like, can I see your hall pass? And it's lunchtime. Everyone's walking around. It was staggered lunch. So some people were supposed to be in class. But there were always different groups of people. And, it wasn't the white jocks that were walking around getting stopped. It was these girls. And that bothered me. I didn't know why. I mean, they weren't doing anything wrong. They were just walking and talking, laughing, not being any louder than the people on the other side of the room, but they were always the ones that got stopped. And it was never the same. I mean, sometimes the same teacher, but it wasn't always the same teacher. It was multiple teachers. The security people always stopped them. And it was just definitely something that I noticed and didn't like how it made me feel. Didn't like how how it appeared that the girls felt with the way that they reacted. At this time, I was in the identity and role confusion of Erikson's psychological stages of development. So at this time, I was trying to figure out, who I was, my purpose, my beliefs, and my values. And through these moments, through those experiences, I decided I did not want to be someone to accuse anyone of anything based on what they looked like, where they came from, how they were raised, how they identify, things like that. So it was, a pretty important moment in my development and growing up, I think, just seeing that on a very regular basis. So based on the readings from, I might butcher this, Kolovsky, Weaver, and Constance Huggins, a way to take action to challenge power structures and perpetrate racial inequality is to take a closer look and become more familiar with macro level psychology, so you can really begin to understand and address the effects of the social environment, so that we can communicate with and better understand where our clients who are people of color are coming from. Because in the mental health, they struggle to stay in treatment and get the right treatment that they need, because they don't feel that they're really understood. It's hard to put yourself in the place of, or in situations like that when you've never really been in there. So I think if we took a better macro look, I guess, and weren't so focused on the micro psychology and the self, like the individual level changes, and looked more on how we can change greater things like the society. And I think informing our fellow peers, our colleagues, our other students, things like just those people, informing them and just educating them, so that they can do the same and start to kind of break away from the kind of, I guess, rut that psychology or social work, therapy, counseling, things like that can kind of fall into, of just the one-on-one sessions or the family sessions or group sessions, things like that, and put a more emphasis on like the macro change. So how I would respond differently to the situation I discussed previously. In one way, I think it would be kind of interesting to have done some kind of social experiments that kind of put a white girl in with a group of girls and see how they got treated, see if there was the same response, or if they were left alone like all the other groups of white people just walking around aimlessly doing nothing. But something else that I wish I could have done is to stand up to those authority figures. But the thing is they were authority figures. I was just a high school student, and it was teachers, and it was security officers. And how am I to stand up to them and tell them that what they're doing is wrong, and question them and why they were doing what they were doing, and why they chose to ask them specifically like what they were doing instead of the other people. And I think that's kind of a part of the problem with institutionalized racism, is that it involves people questioning authority and figures of sorts, and we think, we don't fully understand what's, going on with a particular line of work or something like that, but that we're not capable or eligible to be questioning these people and what they're doing and how they're behaving. But I think if we see any injustice, we need to be addressing those things. And another thing that I wish I would have done, that I feel like I could have done, is talk to the girls and see, how they were feeling, and let them know, like, hey, I saw this, I see this every day. It's not right. They shouldn't be bothering you like that. And I kind of regret that, because I guess in a way I could have been an ally and maybe helped them stand up for themselves more and stand up for other people. And I feel like I didn't do that. And so I kind of let them down. But anyway, that's my presentation. Thank you.